Morning, Mel.
Charlie. Happy Monday morning.
Isn't it just? I mean, there's so much going on right now behind the scenes, but it's very interesting with so much action going on behind the scenes that there's absolutely nothing in mainstream media. And we're seeing a sort of a desperate last stand at the moment from the deep state and the banking cabal. They're doing everything they possibly can to cause mayhem and trouble and kill as many people as they possibly can. We're seeing them play real dirty. I was told that there was an announcement in the mosque in Iraq on the exchange rate with the dinar on Saturday, and that was the trigger that would have made things happen. So that the new rate would have been on the FX, I believe, on Saturday night.
Right.
But the new banking, the banks around the world would know the new rates today, Monday.
Right. Cool.
And it's going to be very interesting to see if the banks will honor them or not.
Right. Right.
And this is all been put in place on purpose to see whether the banks are genuine and to flush out the last people that are not good. And I was talking to Simon Parks this morning, and as I do nearly every day, and they were in a queue where a lady was complaining that she'd taken her Iraqi dinar to an exchange bureau and they refused to change it. And they were saying, no, you can't do it. And been to the bank as well, they won't do it. Wow. So it's very interesting to see, just, to test the water. And this lady is obviously just testing the water to see what their reaction is. Right. And the lady in the bureau was saying, at the moment, we can't trade anything at the moment to do with Iraq.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Crazy. I got to tell you, that's interesting because some things are happening here with the banks. First, we saw Wells Fargo literally kicking people out of the bank that are patriots. There was like 3 high-profile people that are out there that Wells Fargo closed their accounts and no longer want to do business with them, which is bizarre. And then something else happened. JP Morgan Chase, put out a thing to all of their employees that they have to turn over all of their private correspondence that on their phones and personal email and stuff for the last, I believe, year, or be fired, which is very bizarre. I get that they have to do this for financial stuff, but it was a threat put out to all of their employees that they had to turn over all their personal communications regarding business. So something is up that people are scrambling to keep hidden.
Well, you and I have been saying for a year now that we're moving from darkness into light, and this is the Great Awakening. And as we're going out of the darkness, we're starting to see who's in the dark and who's in the light.
Right.
And there's an extreme definition there right now. And the dark side is looking very, very dark.
Yes.
And the light side is looking very, very light.
Right. Well, like I told you, I was lucky enough to be in Tampa, Florida this weekend at the Reopen America Health and Freedom Conference. And I got to meet General Flynn and Mike Lindell and hundreds of thousands. There was 10,000 patriots there who love America, love God and country. There's no doubt that we are, the majority. And as this travels through, I'm going to be doing one a month. Next month, I'm going on July 4th to Branson with Doug Billings. And then there's the fireworks in South Dakota. And they're trying to stop them, of course, as if the national parks aren't we the peoples. And then, but I got to tell you, first of all, at least 2,000 people came up to me to say, oh, hi. Everyone loves Charlie Ward. The big question is, when is Charlie Ward coming to America? And everyone says, oh, I love Charlie. I love you and Charlie. But the amount of hope and information and love that you have in America is and the gratitude for all of that is amazing. We're truly amazing. It would have brought tears to your eyes to see how many people love you and think of you as even more of a patriot than most American patriots. Yeah. So that was exciting to see. so many people to asking about you, and it was just, you're so beloved, and it's just so good that there's a voice like you out there that's hitting everyone internationally. And I really wanted you to know you are loved beyond what you can imagine.
I think it makes it easier to see what's going on when you're looking from outside in,
Right.
rather than those that are stuck right in the middle of it and can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
From where I'm sat here with the information I get from the people I get it from,
Right.
it's very, very clear that there are two presidents in the United States. One is a constitutional president and one is a president of a bankrupt corporation. And I think when the penny drops with people, that's when they sit back and relax, because the reality is right now, yes, the military are running America right now, but they're running it with the guidance from President Trump, not from Biden.
Right. That's pretty clear. And I know that, I'm sure you saw that the highest level defector ever from China has been working with the DIA, which is the military intelligence, since before the election. It looks like all the way back. And remember that when we talked about that, Chris Miller had talked about the separation between the CIA and the Pentagon, and all of that really was JFK's plan being put into action. But that was Chris Miller and Ezra Cohen-Watnick did a press conference. Well, it turns out this guy has been working with them since then, or even before then, and probably when Pompeo made that speech to the governors, that he knew who was involved with the CCP and what universities and all of that. It appears this man, Vice Minister Dong Jingwei, that he's the guy who flipped. He's the highest level Chinese communist spy ever to defect to America. And it turns out that what is confirmed that he turned over is that it's about a single terabyte of approximately 75 million pages of documents to the DIA, I believe led by Miller. And these are the things that he's given proof of. Early pathogenic studies of the virus known as SARS-CoV-2, models of predictable COVID-19 spread and damage in the USA and the world, financial records detailing which exact organizations and governments funded research on SARS-CoV-2 and other biological warfare weapons, names of US citizens who provided intel to China over the last 15, 20 years, names of Chinese spies working in the US or attending US universities, financial records showing US businessmen, politicians, and public officials who've received money from the Chinese government, details of meetings between US government officials who had spies that were members of the Russia SVR, and how the Chinese government gained access to CIA communication systems and networks, leading to the death of dozens of Chinese people who were working for the CIA under Hillary Clinton's, when she was Secretary of State. And we remember all those Chinese CIA assets were murdered. So that's just the tip of the iceberg of what this guy turned over a year ago.
Yeah. The one thing I want to point out to our viewers is a lot of people won't have met in real life a spy. I have met quite a few, and they're not very nice people. By the nature of what they do, they watch people without them knowing, and they're sneaky. They're not very nice. Right. And people get surprised about people becoming a double agent. It doesn't surprise me one little bit, because that's the type of people they are. They're basically prostitutes. Right. They'll go to the highest bidder. If China was paying them this much and America offered them double, they'd jump like that. Right. They don't have any sense of loyalty because it's not in their DNA. Right. They're sneaky, horrible little bastards. Right. That pretend that they're nice. And I know a handful of them that are secret agents and spies. And there's a very, very big difference between somebody that's a spy and somebody that's a bodyguard or a personal security, where they're very aware of you and protecting you, and right. They're aware of people watching you. They're a different mentality. But those that are just out and out spies, FBI, CIA spies, people like that, I've met a few. They're just not, because you can never trust them. You can never trust a spy because it's not in they're untrustworthy. They're just in what they do. Yeah. And I had an interview with Benjamin Fulford. He's a really
deep in journalist he lives in Japan. And he was talking about that he had heard from his sources that they're already structuring a new body to replace the phony UN, one world government world body, but that there actually is a plan, like you talk about sometimes with the humanitarian stuff and the switching of the entire world order, not the new world order. That it's a more realistic plan that like divides the countries into sections, so that it's not the UN and then this big cesspool of a possible corruption and all of that, as we know, USAID and all of that, UNESCO, but that it's going to be more focused on the regions, and there will be regional people that will represent each region rather than this big, ridiculous New World Order, UN, NATO thing. And also, NATO is being exposed as what they are, which is the Rockefeller One World Government military. And more and more is coming out about NATO's role in all of these overthrows. And we know right now, Colombia and Peru are going through what we went through during our election. There was a fraudulent election in Iran a few days ago where people boycotted voting, and yet they decided this guy's the winner. But then something happened also. Iran's, I think, biggest nuclear plant went offline. And so there's a lot going on in the Middle East, and it looks like the good guys from the Pentagon are dismantling operations in the Middle East because we don't belong there, and we never did. And so that's good news. The other thing is I talked to a lot of vets this weekend, and I have a lot of vets that email me and stuff. People are really starting to question the last 20 years and what their friends died for and why, and as that gets exposed, and we have vets saying, I think they totally betrayed the veterans, and all these dead soldiers died for this small group of people's money and oil interests, and that the people of all our countries have been lied to, and they have a lot of innocent soldiers' deaths on their hands, not to mention civilians. And I'm seeing so many people waking up that it's can't be long until it has to be taken care of.
It's very interesting that, because they will have an awful lot of cases to deal with on the basis that the CIA specifically, and the FBI, but the CIA specifically, created terrorist groups themselves in the Middle East and named them and managed them. And then, of course, they claimed that they'd broken these things. They'd broken their own things that they'd made. And they wanted the world to be grateful that they'd taken out this terrorist cell that was incredibly dangerous. It was so dangerous, they made it themselves.
You can't make it up. And it's just the people of the world have been so blind to this propaganda, obviously bought and paid for media. And but all signs are really leading back to the Rockefellers. I saw a Dutch politician just get up there and talk about what you and I exposed, 8 months ago, about that Operation Lockstep, Rockefeller Foundation Institute, basically document about the pandemic and how it was going to work and the steps to getting people to follow in lockstep and all of this stuff. And everything is really coming back, as you know, to the Rockefeller family, which then comes back to the bloodlines we've been talking about for a year and a half. But it's becoming mainstream. As much as they're trying to stop it, it is becoming mainstream. And the hatred and anger towards this Dr. Fauci is at a boiling rate. And, so these are all great things. And as you know, the hand recount in Arizona is done. They have more to do there. But I have to tell you, what's coming out of Georgia looks like they won't even need a recount, because that Stacey Abrams, as we know, she's gone around pretending that she's some kind of fighter for the Black community and Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, she's worked with John Podesta at the Center for American Progress for the last 15 years, has been going to Bilderberg somehow, Council of Foreign Relations, the whole thing. So this Stacey Abrams owned a temp agency called Happy Faces that hired all the people, right? She also has a stake in it financially, by the way, and then trained them to do the cheating. And now that they have, and we always talked about, it's going to be the low level people that aren't going to be thrown under the bus for the high level people. So there's testimony coming out that Raffensperger stabbed Trump in the back, and then with that manipulated that phone call, had to admit that there's 100,000 voter registrations that need to be purged. Well, all of it needs to be purged. And as you and I have said many times, if there's any fraud the entire thing is fraudulent.
Yeah.
So I believe, as much as we're looking at Arizona, the criminality is being proven in Georgia, that I don't even see why we would need an audit when even though they found all these blank ballots and pristine ballots that weren't folded, also no chain of custody for the drop boxes, no signatures on dates or dates on pickup from the drop boxes, which is their cheating mechanism. So yeah, it's looking good in that realm. People keep saying this ludicrous thing, especially if they're on the other side, that Trump can't be reinstated. That's not in the Constitution. That's not true. Okay, no. It's unprecedented, this level of cheating and treason. It's unprecedented. And the bottom line is,
can you tell me if these are real?
Let's see. I don't know, but I hope so. I sent him to Ann Vandersteel. I'm like, is this real? Is this possibly real?
I know.
Who knows? But it's looking that way, and it's not unprecedented. I mean, it's unprecedented, so nobody can say that there's no mechanism. There is. If they can decertify and then do the election, but also he won. So there's plenty of stuff in the Constitution and in a lot of different ways that can be done. And so anyone saying that it's impossible is definitely not looking at.
He actually verified, didn't he, before the election, with an executive order, that if there was any foreign interference, that the election would be deemed null and void.
Right.
And he would win by default.
Right.
That was he'd already clarified that, and he got the Supreme Court to verify that. That's still sat there. You know, nothing has changed on that. And of course, there is huge evidence now of foreign interference. But the one thing that's become very, very clear is this: it's not on Mel's timing or Charlie's timing; it's on God's timing, and God will decide exactly when the exposure comes.
Yep. And as we talked about, you know, we needed to wait until, I mean, it's not an accident that all these Soros bought and paid for DAs and attorney generals are letting out violent criminals in mass. They're dropping charges against the worst of the worst, keeping charges for like lower crimes, but they're putting criminals back on the street for this, is my opinion. And I keep telling all patriots, no matter what, do not engage. You and I knew right away, and we saw footage that January 6th was a false flag set up by them. I believe Pelosi, Schumer, all of them were in on it. You know, they ended up certifying the election at 4 a.m. after they were sent out. Like, so it was a cover for them. But now we're finding out that there's actually evidence that the FBI infiltrated all these groups, these, you know, patriot groups. And then they were the ones that encouraged all of this, and that it was a complete and total setup, Gladio, false flag. And people need to go to prison for that too. It's enough's enough how they used it to turn it.
They're horrible people, because I know when they arrested Fauci, he sung like a canary and threw Pelosi and Schiff straight under the bus.
Of course.
And I mean, they're all telling stories on each other. Yeah. And I think probably my favorite was Ghislaine Maxwell telling stories on Epstein, thinking he was dead.
I know. How about her? The conditions in jail are just horrible. And even more is coming out on that, because they're going to disclose what really happened to Diana coming up, and the involvement of Prince Philip and others, which, you know, anyone that was paying attention knew that they were in danger because of the Dodi Fayed, and his poor father has fought so hard all these years to try to prove this, again, making him the father of Dodi Fayed into some kind of conspiracy theorist.
Correct.
For trying to blame the royal family. It turns out they have plenty of evidence that that's
they
exactly
have,
what happened.
Tons of evidence.
Yeah, so that's going to be, because we've had, you know, they've had a hard time waking up people in the UK. It looks like more than anywhere. You know, when we talk to Nick or Catherine or Alba, they always say, like, people here they are not willing to even look at the royal family in a different light. But I have a feeling this will change that.
Exactly. They'll find it very, very hard to accept. I've tried to explain to people that are asleep about Buckingham Palace being empty for a year, over a year. And they go, well, how do you know? And I went, I've just done a little bit of research. That's all. Not a lot, a little bit. And we have people go and check it out on a regular basis. I said, I'm just very surprised that nobody in the UK is asking why.
Right. What do you think?
Well, my gut feeling, and within the inside intel that I have, is that Donald Trump told her that she had to leave Buckingham Palace, and for her cooperation, he would allow her to leave a legacy. That's what I understand.
Right.
Prince Philip was a different kettle of fish. He died well over a year ago, and I mentioned it, and I said it wouldn't come out until this year, and it did.
Right.
And they ran the whole thing this year for the television.
Right.
The reality was that it happened a year before. I had somebody said, "Oh, well, I know somebody who met the Queen the other day." I said, "Great, absolutely great." Because the Queen that's walking around now for the media or for wherever actually doesn't look anything like the one that was around 2 years ago. And my intel tells me that she's no longer here either. And I don't believe Prince Charles is either, because the body double for him is absolutely useless. That was made in China on a Friday afternoon. I mean, it's shocking.
Well, here people have a very hard time because now Hillary's, whatever that is, that double is out there. The Russia, Putin stole my win and all of this again. And people say, well, I mean, Hillary and Bill, they've seen no justice. And I look at them, I go, does that look like Hillary?
Yeah.
It's just so hard for people to grasp that this has been to that level. A movie, like you've been saying, a Panama, like you've been saying.
It is, yeah. And it's just, we're getting to the end game now. And it's exciting to watch it unravel and unfold. And I'm just shocked at the amount of people that are still fast asleep.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, they're in complete denial. And even when you point out stuff, I pointed out the outtakes of Jim Carrey playing Biden. They go, "Yeah, so," and I'm like, "You don't get it, do you?" And it is very much the difference between being third dimensional and fifth dimensional. When you're fifth dimensional, you sit back and you're calm and you're relaxed. There's a lot of people out there that are pretending they're in the fifth dimension. They've never even seen the side of it. I mean, they're not even in the fourth dimension.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing that's kind of interesting going on is that people are looking at the mainstream media has completely sunk their credibility. Not that we didn't know, but in the ratings, that's how you know that we're the majority, and they're just trying to keep convincing. But the ratings for CNN, MSNBC have plummeted. So even if people don't want to believe it or are still anti-Trump or whatever, you can't deny that the media has lost all credibility, all power, and that is huge, as you know, all over the world. It is,
and people are starting to realize that it doesn't make sense what they're saying. It just doesn't make sense. And then when you get countries like India and Africa, countries in Africa that are filing, the governments are writing to the British government saying, what you're doing about saying that this is an African variant or an African thing is a downright lie. Please don't use our country's name. I mean, and that's becoming public very, very quickly. It's just mind blowing at how stupid the United Kingdom has become, dumbed down by television. Their total faith is in everything that comes out of the television. They've got no space for common sense. It's incredibly sad.
And like you said, it's not a lot of research that has to be done.
No,
I know on both of our websites, you can look at resources. Take an hour, you can prove half of the stuff is that they're hearing has to be a lie, but people aren't willing to do it. And also the push for the vaccine, people are starting to say, like, it's not just like it always is with these arrogant, traitors and sociopaths. It's always the cover up. It's always the arrogance and honestly thinking that humanity is so stupid that they're not going to at some point say, why are they pushing this? What's in that? What's the reasoning? And it's still unclear. And when people say to me, well, Trump pushed it, I say, no, he didn't. He said it was up to you. We don't know what the military did when they got it. But the one thing I do know is that if Trump didn't do what he did with warp speed, the plan in the Operation Lockstep was to keep us all locked down till 2023 at least, when they had a vaccine. So if they did it their way and Trump really didn't have the ability to turn it around, he did Operation Warp Speed to open our countries. He had to do it. That was really the choice he had to make as a president in war. That's the truth. He's been in war the whole time. And also 9/11 disclosure is going to come out. So get ready for that, because I hear that's on the horizon, and that'll be a big, big blow. But now when you look at 1/6 and see what they did with it, it's really been about turning the Patriot Act on we the people. But now they say that the Biden administration has been spying on actively 16,000 American citizens, probably me and Anne, who keeps getting stopped at the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, why? If you have nothing to hide, why are you doing this to so it's all good, I think.
There's been an interesting twist in the UK as well with British Airways. They vaccinated 80% of their pilots, and 4 died in the first week. And they've gone into complete and utter panic mode. And they've been talking to the government saying, what the hell's going on here? We're losing pilots, and they're healthy pilots, no pre-existing conditions at all. And they found out that the insurance company are now saying that they're refusing to insure British Airways if their pilots have been vaccinated. So they're between a rock and a hard place. And of course, if you have a plane in the air where you have a pilot and a first officer that have a problem, and one of the biggest problems is blood clotting because of the altitude. That's always been a problem anyway. With this heightens the risk twice as much. There's a number of other pilots around the world who've had to leave the controls because of excruciating pain in their body since they've had the vaccine. Right. So it's very interesting to keep our eyes and ears open.
Yeah.
But they stopped testing the vaccine or the jab on animals because it killed so many.
Right. And even when they did do it a long time ago with this gain of function stuff, all the animals died after the vaccine, and then they were hit with it again, and that's when they died. And that came out. Oh, the American frontline doctors, Simona Gold and Stella Emanuel and all of them, deplatformed again. They're just doing that. And about the flight thing, I was supposed to fly to Palm Springs with layovers in Dallas both ways, and my flights were canceled. So probably the same thing you're talking about. Yeah. Out of nowhere, and it was all out of Dallas, and I think that's their hub for the American Airlines. So that goes with that, and now we're seeing people saying, doctors saying that they won't treat people that have side effects from the AstraZeneca vaccine. So, I mean, we're getting to a point where doctors are readily admitting finally that they don't know what's in there, and how can they treat the side effects when they don't know what they're treating? And
also, if they're committing genocide, they'll have to go to The Hague to have a court hearing. Of course, genocide comes with a mandatory death sentence.
Right.
So they need to think twice about what they're doing.
Right. I keep reminding people that in the first Nuremberg trial, plenty of doctors and media were also killed. Correct. We just didn't know that part of the story. Sure. Because I think the biggest criminals in all of this, next to the Obama Biden regime and Dr. Fauci and Gates and all of them, is the media. They are totally complicit in the biggest crime against humanity, I think, imaginable.
And it won't just be the bosses.
Nope.
It'll be the journalists themselves, the editors, the producers, etc., those that are involved in putting out this narrative, which created genocide.
Right. And that's what I think we're seeing with these voting situations. Is it's the low people on the totem pole that are getting arrested, and they're turning and saying, no, well, I was told by Stacey Abrams or whoever to do it this way, clearly in violation of US law. And that's also happening with just on every level. It's happening right now. And when you saw all those buses leaving Capitol Hill filled with staffers, I've been saying to people, it's not just somebody like AOC, who's a total danger to this country. She has 30 people on staff. They all had to have been in on it. Yeah. You know, I was following orders. We talked about that from Eichmann in Jerusalem and him up there. Well, I was just following orders. Well, that's no excuse for being involved in genocide.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, all this is good because it's disclosure to the level that we hoped it would come. Because at some point there's going to be, I think we're getting there. There still are people asleep, but I think a lot more awake. And I'll tell you something, 10,000 people cheering on General Flynn and Sidney Powell and Lindell and all these people just from all over, driving, flying in. They're all summer long. These are filling up. They're rallies. You know, let's be honest. These are rallies. They're being had for a reason. They're not getting these people excited to have their hearts broken again. And here comes Trump in Ohio coming in for his own. So I think we're in great shape on this Monday morning.
I think so too. It's going to be another exciting week.
Always good to catch. You got to do a Charlie Ward tour of America. It'll
I would
sell
love
out
to.
everywhere. Everyone
I'd
loves
love
you. It's
Oh,
so
I'd love
great.
to.
It's
It's
so
been an
great.
amazing journey, and I'm looking forward to coming over anyway to see my grandson.
I
He
oh,
lives
I
down,
know.
he lives
I
down
know.
at Boca Raton in Florida, so not far away from you.
Yeah, I know. But I'm telling you, people, I was so, it would warm my heart how many people came up and said, I love Charlie, tell him I love him. I was like, and people ask about you, and I say, he's just a really positive, happy guy who loves our country more than most Americans, loves Donald Trump, and he loves the truth. And he wants people to be empowered by the truth and facts. And that's why he does what he does every day to
Exactly.
great success.
Exactly. Well, that's really, really good. I shall look forward to coming over for sure, and I shall bring Justin with me as well. So bring
Great.
my little mini warrior with me.
Great. Well, it was good to see a lot of kids. Parents brought their kids to these events. And that it was just so, it made you so proud of America. And we need more of that everywhere. So when you do arrive in America, I think that you will be so surprised at how many people truly are so grateful for your work.
Wow. I shall look forward to it. Mel,
Yeah.
happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Until then, everyone knows. People said, oh, I love your Monday morning show. I said, me and Charlie want to get out there on Monday and tell everyone to get ready for a good week. Stay positive. Know God won already. God wins. And just keep fighting and keep the faith. And another week and another bunch of developments will happen. And I will see you next Monday, if not
Perfect.
before,
Exactly.
to see how beautifully this is unfolding.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
Love
right.
you, Charlie.
You too, sweetheart. Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yes.